Been a member since 1976. I'm also a retired construction engineer that helps with many little projects around the church to keep things running. What we're going to do today is give you a brief overview of the work that we had to do in the attic of the sanctuary to keep it standing and not falling down after we discovered large cracks in the ceiling in about 2008. And what you see here is the scaffolding plan that actually started in the basement in the chapel area, went through all the way up through the sanctuary and under the roof is the ceiling line. This is the truss that we put in, and it ended up with 7 jacking points. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 jacks, where each truss carries a load of about 84,000 pounds. So we had to jack each truss back into position so we could then reinforce it. What we're going to do now is we're going to go over to the building itself, and we're going to go up in the attic, and so you can be impressed like I am. The original building was built in 1833, and then we had a major restoration and remodeling in 1922. We're now in the attic, and what you're looking at is the east end of the sanctuary, which is actually Bull Street's right in front of us on the other side of that wall. The original church, the 1833 church, ended where these steps are. In 1922, when they did a renovation, they raised the roof line by 5 feet and then pushed out a porch on the front, now the front portico. The first thing we had to do is this truss right here on our left is actually the end of the original building. So the building did not come past that truss. But you can see the massive amount of reinforcement that had to be done. And also, we put these cantilever beams down here to pull the trusses back into position. And that brick wall is actually the face of the church. It's called the entablature. Those steel plates you saw are actually jacking points where we used to push down on one end to raise this end up. Now, the issue started up here in 2008 when members of the choir noticed certain sections of the ceiling were actually sagging. So we hired a construction engineer, or a structural engineer in Charleston, South Carolina, who came down here in 2008 and 9 and did complete studies, investigations, and then in 2011, the project actually started to reinforce the trusses and put them back in the original position. It took about a year. We worked 7 days a week, and the overall cost of the project was about $1.4 million, which was raised from the congregation. This is typical of the reinforcement that was required. Remember, there were 7 jacking points under each truss. We jacked 3 trusses together. We could not do just one truss because it's a plaster ceiling, and if we tried to move one truss, the plaster ceiling would have cracked all over the place. So we had to lift 3 trusses at one time through 7 points, anywhere from 1/8 of an inch to 2 inches. So it was very traumatic doing all this. Once we got the trusses back into position, we removed the old steel straps that held the trusses together and then placed reinforcing plates with bolt-through bolts on each and every truss that required reinforcement. Then you'll also see a lot of new wood up here. So those were pieces of the trusses that were destroyed by termites, age. After all, this timber is over 130 years old. So we're actually pushing 200 years now. What I want to show you here is the original roof line, which is on the top of this truss going right down here. And you can see the big steel plates we had to put on to reinforce the ends. And also these tension rods, they're 1.5 inch structural rods that were placed across the bottom cords. They go all the way across to the other side to relieve some of the load on this bottom truss. Each year we come up here once a year and check each truss to make sure it hadn't moved. And what you see here is an anchor point to make a benchmark. And we pull a string line, which you can see a piece of it right there, over to a piece, a mark on this truss right there, which shows you the position of the truss at the end of the project. So now we can check each year to make sure the trusses are not moving or trying to sag again. What we also discovered is that because of some of the other conditions in this roof restoration, that this truss number 11, which you see over there, is actually overstressed and needs to be reinforced, and that's one of the projects we have on our list of things to do. What you're looking at now is kind of a jury rig reinforcement of truss 12, because truss 12 is in such bad shape, and of course it's intermingled in with the pipes, and we can't reinforce each section like we did out here, is that we put sort of a hanging system that's supported by the steel beam that goes off truss 10 and 11. Well, that completes our tour of the attic, and I hope you're impressed. But like I said at the beginning, the point of this is to impress the congregation, to see what a treasure we have and what it takes to keep this church standing.